Welcome to this week's End of Days Update, coming to you from Tulsa, Oklahoma. Had a great time this last weekend. We were in Living Word Church there in Dayton, Ohio. Man, they've grown so much. Just wonderful things happening there. Just amazing. Right before that, we were at Effingham for those meetings with Joey Roberts. You have to put those on your calendar. Those are way too fun and extremely unusual and different meetings. We had a great time there in Effingham, great crowds. Right before that, we were in Canton, Ohio. And so had a great time there in Canton with those guys. Been there over the years many times. They're doing such a wonderful job. I love seeing places take care of and meet the needs of people. It's wonderful. So, and make sure you like and subscribe to our channel. It will help us get the message out. Everything is about getting the message out that the King's coming so soon. So, and this weekend, if you're anywhere near Shreveport, Louisiana, we'll be at Life United. We'll be there Wednesday through Saturday morning, the 2nd through the 5th. So come join us, and we'll have a great time. And there's several other speakers, but you'll be blessed and strengthened if you can. So come be with us there in Shreveport. You know, we're coming to you every week to look at the different things that point to the coming of the Lord, and specifically the gathering and kind of the arranging of nations for the Ezekiel 38 war. I heard a guy the other day said, well, I think that war happens before we leave. I personally believe it's the only time you see God intervene like that under the old covenant, basically laws. During the church age, he gave the church authority. And so it was up to the church. I don't know if people freak out about this, but Germany killed 6 million Jews and prospered because God's not mad at anybody right now. But everybody wants God but judging this, judging that, judging that. There's a lot of that in the Old Testament, but in the New Testament, you can only find it with 2 or 3 different people. So I have no idea I'm talking about this, but it's interesting that people want judgment more than mercy. And in this 2,000-year church age, he completely shows mercy over and over and over again. I'm amazed. I had a lady in Newtown, Connecticut, came down to get prayed for. I was sitting down after the service. I prayed for her shoulder and her back, and she goes, "Oh, rats." I said, "How you doing?" She goes, "Oh, man, I'm healed. It's gone." I go, "What do you mean?" She goes, "I came down here to disprove you and didn't want to get healed and got healed anyway." That's the mercy of God. That's this 2,000-year church age is all about the mercy. So we're blessed. I mean, to have the thing set up the way Jesus did, it must have freaked him out when that woman was caught in adultery, and he said, "Let you who is among you without sin, let him cast the first stone." They're like, "What? What is this?" So you notice even the religious leaders were like that, but when the madman of Gadara came walking in, the demons started crying out, "Have you come to torment us before the time?" They knew Jesus was on a schedule, but they knew he was early. So don't you love that? If demons can know the schedule, so much more the church. So the End of Days Update is all about looking at what's happening around Israel and seeing how it shows the Scripture and all the signs, along with the book of Daniel, the book of Revelation. Why did the Lord put so much of this in there? So we would know what time it was and we would get in position. It's not about an escape theology, it's about a hustle theology. So let's pick up what's happening around there. There's so many things we could get into about end times that are so blatant. And remember, think about it. For every one verse there is about the first coming, 8 times more about the second coming. Paul talked about the baptism 12 times, coming of the Lord 52 times. I hear all this pushback about, well, you don't need to be preaching on the coming of the Lord. I think the closer you get to the finish line, you scream louder. I've never seen people, no, let's get quiet, there's the finish line. No, there's a boisterous voice to say, run, 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 finish your race. So let's pick up with what's happened around there. This last week, when I was in France, Emmanuel Macron was there, and they were doing a great big thing about conservationism. It's a whole different move that's even different than worse than some of the others. But that came out this last week that Israel was going to have to go to this agreement with the EU and with the UN about a 7-year agreement for a Palestinian state. And it kind of wild, that was freaking me out. I remember I said I didn't think it was the main one. That one got postponed because of the war that broke out. Think about it. Israel had a 12-day war, and you still got rockets firing back and forth. You've got Iran still firing rockets into Iraq. You've got in Gaza rockets firing back and forth. Israel is having to do what they have to do to bring peace. I like the people that I saw in the Knesset pushing for, hey, let's finish this off so that we don't have this temptation of getting missiles flying at us and getting bombed again. So pretty crazy. So in the first time in 2,000 years, Israel's milling company is producing flours in a dry milling process from the book of Leviticus. Don't you love that God's got all these guys ready for this Temple Mount stuff, man? One person after another person, one group after another group in position because the king's about to come back. I saw where it was 3 out of the 5 red heifers are still available. That was a big deal because they didn't have any red heifers. That they were all had their ears clipped because of COVID. The ones that are there now specifically are pure and clean and ready. You had Ben Gvir authorize Jewish singing and dancing on the Temple Mount. That's kind of crazy because they're not allowed, don't you love it? They're not allowed to pray on the Temple Mount, but they can sing and dance. And when I was there last year, the rabbi that took us up on the mountain, he was trying to sing prayers out. And I was like, oh God, I don't want to get arrested. But the Jordanian police followed us the whole way. The second we got off the edge of the Temple Mount, that rabbi fell on his face when he was 1 inch off the Temple Mount and started beginning to pray. It's so cool to see that mission in them, that they're ready for the Messiah to come back. 20, 30 years ago, there was talk of the Messiah coming back. Now you've got different groups getting everything ready because we're about to have this temple rebuilt and the king's about to come back. You had Israeli Defense Forces kill the senior Hezbollah terrorist in southern Lebanon. He was the one in charge of the October 7th attack. Flawlessly brought all this stuff together. Still can't believe that actually happened. But a lot of my friends that were there that are Israeli soldiers, they thought they were having a drill and walked right up to the Hamas guys and let them shoot them, thinking it wasn't real. So the other stuff that happened during that time, it would let you see why Israel has to completely do what they have to do, because it's insane to think that they are overplaying their hand right now. They're so far underplaying their hand, it's ridiculous. But you had Damascus and Jerusalem. They're exploring indirect talks with the president of Syria there and pushing for Israel withdrawal while the country seeks security guarantees. So Syria is trying to force Israel back away even further. They've had such a good buffer area in the Golan, but you had Turkey trying to build missile bases there, and now you've got Syria trying to do things like that. So they're trying to come up with an agreement to push Israel back even further. The reason why there had to be a buffer zone there is because all these nations keep crawling over the line. They're trying to kill Israel. So of course you'd want to have it built up even larger. So I'm intrigued when people have pushback about Israel trying to protect themselves. Trump's taking sanctions off of Syria. It looks like it'll help their economy. That's kind of crazy because it's amazing that's a mercy act, because Syria over the years has tried to do everything they could to facilitate missiles coming down from Iran into Syria to be placed there in Damascus. And Israel's had to, last year they had 50 some odd sorties they had to go to bomb those missiles so that they wouldn't be fired at Israel. You got France, the UK and Germany were condemning the threats against Grossi. Remember how the IEA head was coming out with all that information that, man, Iran's this far away from nuclear weaponry, and now there's all this attack on him. Well, he was basically, he's being accused of being an Israeli spy now, but no, he's just telling the truth. He told the truth because it was blatant that Iran was going to fire a nuclear missile on Israel. So it's I like that these countries were condemning the threats against him, because you had people threatening his life because it looked like he was trying to do that for Israel. You had Tim Walz said that China should be the moral authority in the Middle East conflict. I don't think so. It's just weird how these guys from different states and different backgrounds think they can rise up and be the equivalent of a judge over an area, and that's not going to happen. You had North Korea, when more troops are rumored to be sent to Russia, where it looks like Russia's going to slow down the conflict between the Ukraine. They're arming up and doing even more, and even more North Korean troops are coming there. So, man, what a crazy time that physically in front of our eyes we can see things set up for the Ezekiel 38 war. So you had anti-Zionist Haredi group that are getting ready to have priests for the Temple Mount. A few weeks ago, they were already selecting a high priest. That's several different groups. Now, if you see one group getting ready for it, that's interesting, like the Temple Mount. But you've got group after group after group that are going, okay, we've got to have things ready for priestly worship at the Temple Mount. Why? Jesus is just about to come back. The church is about to be raptured, and we're going to go back to 7 years of Old Covenant time. Well, that's a feeling these guys are picking up, so they know they've got to get it ready. So you even had the Saudi king reward 1,000 Palestinian terrorists with their relatives with money. So when Jordan looks like they're trying to make peace with Israel, they also offered 1,000 terrorists extra money for killing Jews, which is absolutely insane. You even had, this is how weird it's getting now, you had the UK, England, presented plans to have their groceries checked to see if the government deemed it unhealthy. So if we got into all the stuff that was happening with floods, all the stuff that's happening with natural things, all the stuff with asteroids, it would freak us all out. But you can only go so far because there's so much that you had to cover. So we're just blessed that we get to see it coming to pass, because when Jesus said, when you see these things, lift up your heads, your redemption draws nigh. So we get into all these signs every week, though, to show us how close we are, because he loves you. He wants to bless you. He wants to encourage you. He wants to strengthen you, because you are a voice that he's raised up in the last days. The believer is a voice to show people how close we are to the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords coming back to the planet. So let's go to the scripture. We always go to of the Word. The Word never changes. All these things come and go, but the Word is flawless. Jesus said the generation that sees Israel regathered and Jerusalem won back, that generation won't pass away till all is fulfilled. So that's happened in our lifetime, 1967 and 1948. Cool. So, but after that, you got the Hebrew language restored. You don't find anybody speaking Hittite, Amorite, or Canaanite, but you hear them speaking Hebrew. 120 years ago, no one spoke Hebrew. Now the whole nation does, because God said He would revive that dead language just before the Messiah comes. So you got sign after sign. You got the Ethiopian Jews brought back in one day. Pretty amazing, 18,000 airlifted in one day. You have the EU, the EU, the European Union, come about to be a platform for the Antichrist. You've got the fertility of the land of Israel. Mark Twain was there in the latter 1800s. He said the land was so desolate, it won't support life. Yet Israel produces 90% of the fruit for all of Europe. So you have all these signs. I mean, you have foxes on the Temple Mount, fish in the Dead Sea. You have the Dead Sea turned blood red where Sodom and Gomorrah was on the day of atonement. That's radical. So you've got the ritual baths around the Temple Mount fill up with water, first time in 2,000 years. You've got men will be lovers themselves with selfie sticks. I was out in California and I saw a guy with 2 selfie sticks, almost got hit by a car. All these are happening right now because the Lord's coming back. I had a guy go, well, I'm fact checking you and this all happened. I said, well, yeah, it happened. I am not smart enough to come up with these. So sign after sign after sign. You had China rebuild the archway for Baal worship in Palmyra where the Tower of Babel was. The Talmud says that's the last sign you'll see before the Messiah comes. That's pretty remarkable. Many, many, many other signs happening. You got the Temple Mount ready with the heifers, the red heifers. You have the predatory birds in position. Think about that. 170 different species of predatory birds start showing up in the land. Right after the Ezekiel 38 war, God's going to call on the fowl of the air to come clean the land up. During the Battle of Armageddon, He's going to call on the fowl of the air again to clean the land up. So you've got the cleanup crew in Israel right now, and they got to eat something. So sign after sign after sign after sign after sign, many, many, many more. But then you have signals. The Bible said the planets will be signals for us. So you had blood red moons on Passover and Tabernacle, pretty remarkable. But NASA called it a tetrad. When's the last time you had 4 in a row on Passover and Tabernacles? 1967 when Jerusalem was won back. 1948 when Israel was made a nation. 1492 at the Edict of Expulsion when the Jews were kicked out of Spain. Remarkable. You had signs in the heavens tied with radical things happening with Israel. Now that's cool, but then you had the Bethlehem star, Jupiter, Regulus, Venus coming together at the birth of Jesus. Pretty remarkable. The constellation was Virgo. Last year the constellation was Leo. He's the Lion of the tribe of Judah. So first time in 2,000 years have these things come together like this. So you've got the heavens preaching to us. You got things in the earth preaching to us, signifying and saying to us, God is about to come back to the planet. Think about, what would you say to the King if you saw Him today, face to face with Jesus of Nazareth, the one who died for you, the one who God raised from the dead, who's coming back again, and we're going to come back with Him on white horses. We'll go to the Mount of Olives. We'll go to Edom. We'll go to where the Battle of Armageddon is going to be. We're going to be right there with Him, watching Him deal with the Antichrist. The Bible says Jesus obliterates him with the brightness of His coming. So wow, we're right there while He's doing that. Wonderful things ahead for the church, scary things ahead for the world. So let's go for it. Let's be bold. Let's be radical. Help your local church. Help your local pastor. Don't fit church into your life. It is your life. We see all these things happening. Why? Because Jesus is just about to come back. Let's go for it. Have a blessed week. We'll see what all's happened this next week, what's come together with that 7-year agreement with the EU and with Israel. Have a great week. We'll see you next Wednesday.
Thanks for joining us today at the End of Days Update. If you'd like to be notified every time there's a new post, just go to the EDU at josephmorris.com and subscribe to receive email alerts. If these posts and updates have been a blessing to you, please consider making a one-time donation to help get the message out, or even becoming a monthly partner with Joseph Morris Ministries. Thanks again for tuning in to the EDU, and we'll see you next week.